Spencer Joy. I'm the dual enrollment specialist at Pellissippi State. For those of you who maybe, if you've never heard of dual enrollment or don't know what dual enrollment is the opportunity for eligible high school students to enroll in a college, preferably Pellissippi State, and earn college and high school credit simultaneously for courses that a student enrolls in. There is a grant that helps pay for the tuition for these courses. And of course, we will hear more about that. So these are just some of the topics that we are going to go over this evening. And we will go ahead and proceed. So when a student enrolls in a college, their educational records are protected by there's a federal law that protects all students' records when they enroll in a college. And then this applies to all students, regardless of age, whether a student is 13 or 87 years old. It doesn't matter if a student is going to have what I like to call educational stakeholder, which is very often in the form of a parent or guardian, or it could be aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, whoever helping our students through. We need that. We need that support system. But students' educational records, anything about their progress or their financial status or financial aid, there is a form that a student must complete first before Pellissippi State or any other college, wherever a student enrolls. This is the same process really at every college, the very vast majority of colleges in the United States. That this law is known as FERPA, and a student must take action on their own to complete what is called the Disclosure of Records form. And at Pellissippi State, that is located in a student's My Pellissippi account, which I will talk a little bit more before we're done this evening. So basically what I'm saying is that if a student or parent if a parent is going to want to be involved, the college can't speak really with anyone other than the student until the Disclosure of Records form has been completed. So given the age of our dual enrollment students being our youngest group, this is always a critically important fact that students and families need to be aware about. And that's why I started with it, and we are going to move on. So at Pellissippi State, dual enrollment students can take any class that we offer in our college catalog on our schedule, so long that they meet any of the educational requirements for the course or courses that they would like to take. Students take classes at one of our campuses. We have 4 campuses, one in Blount County campus off Lamar, off of 421 down there. And then we have 3 in Knox County, Strawberry Plains campus in East Knoxville, Magnolia Avenue campus closer to downtown Knoxville, and the Hardin Valley campus in West Knoxville. And we have dual enrollment students on all of our campuses. Dual enrollment students can also take advantage of our online course options. We offer courses both synchronously and asynchronously. Asynchronous is the most common format of our online courses, and it's not asynchronous doesn't mean that a student just logs in 3 or 4 times a semester and can catch up on any work that's behind or fall behind. Asynchronous means that the student can access their course essentially 24 hours a day, but there are deadlines. There are weekly assignments. It's not something that a student can fall behind on 2 weeks and then catch up on. Synchronous courses are courses delivered by way of Zoom or potentially Microsoft Teams. They have a set time and a set day, just like any of our other courses in person would have, and a student would be expected to log in during those times to participate and fulfill any of the course requirements. We do offer many courses on quite a few high school campuses in Knox and Blount counties for students who are enrolled at those schools. Of our student demographic, we have students from everywhere and every high school and every high school arrangement that I think one could ever possibly think of. And that is so wonderful, from our homeschool independent study community to our private high school partners and our public school partners. So, these courses, if we do offer a course at a public high school, they are for those students enrolled at that high school, and it could be an option potentially at your own high school, depending on where you are enrolled. Oftentimes, the only cost associated with dual enrollment is textbooks, textbooks or any e-textbooks that would be required for a student to succeed in the class. We do have many not many, but some where the textbook, there isn't a cost. But most courses, I tell students and families to expect between $50 to $80 per class. Hopefully not getting up. There's very few courses that are over 100 or 100 period, but that really is oftentimes the only out-of-pocket expense for students doing dual enrollment, so long they apply for the dual enrollment grant. But of course, we will hear more about that shortly. So the most important thing is really with this is if a student is wanting to get high school credit as well as college credit for their class, they must confirm their plans, their dual enrollment ambitions, whatever, if a student is doing dual enrollment and they want high school credit for the course, also they have to get that confirmed with someone at their high school. Could be a high school counselor, could be a homeschool umbrella administrator, whoever that contact may be at your high school. That's really the next step in making sure that the courses that a student's going to take with us are going to fulfill those high school needs or missing requirements. So one big question is ACT. Is the ACT required? And it technically is not. Any student with a 3.6 unweighted high school GPA can enroll in the vast majority of courses that we offer at Pellissippi State. And again, so long a student has a 3.6 unweighted GPA, an ACT is not necessarily required except for higher level math and science courses. There we go. Sorry about that. So these the most common things or courses, the most common avenue that dual enrollment students take are taking core gen ed classes to fulfill a high school requirement, or just general college gen ed requirements. These are the most popular ones. Students are not limited, again, to anything that they see or don't hear in this presentation from everything that Pellissippi has to offer. At the end of the day, dual enrollment students can take advantage of anything that we offer at Pellissippi, so long they meet the educational requirements, except for study abroad. A student can't do that as a dual enrollment student, and they can't enroll in a nursing program. But other than that, students can take whatever they would like. And these are our most popular gen ed courses. If a student has a 3.6, they can enroll in these classes. If a student if they don't have a 3.6, but they do have a 3.0 unweighted GPA and have the qualifying ACT scores, 18 in English, 19 in reading on the ACT, or 500 on the pre-ACT or SAT in the evidence-based reading section, that's what would be required. So kind of starting from the base requirement, students got to have a 3.0 and those ACT scores, but if they have a 3.6, they're good to go. I will come back to math later because it does get a little bit more complicated. Well, actually, I will do it right now. So our math requirements at Pellissippi State have changed, and still some of the information, and we're going to be updating our website, our dual enrollment website, as soon as we can, but it still gives us a great starting place. So if a student has a 3.6 GPA, they can take any of these courses that are highlighted. It says they have to have a 19, but they don't. they can take any of the courses that are listed here with a 3.6. And then beyond there, students do have to have a qualifying ACT score for placement in these courses. And some of these have, of course, some of these have changed. It's not current up to date, but it's the quickest way that I can show some of the common math courses and the additional requirements that a student would have to have. So if a student wanted to take pre-calculus, Math 1710 at Pellissippi State, they would have to have a 22 in math on the ACT, as well as a 3.0 or higher GPA and 19 in reading. So the 3.6 GPA does not get a student in to any of these courses listed here. They also have to have the qualifying ACT score. So my apologies for that not being in the presentation, but we will hop back over now and pick up where we left off. So a student's next steps, if they're going to do dual enrollment, is to head back to the dual enrollment webpage and complete these steps. And I'm not going to spend an exorbitant amount of time going through each one of them, but they are located, again, on the dual enrollment webpage towards the bottom of the page. And I will show that to us again before we are done. But for the time being, excuse me, having a malfunction here. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Okay, we are back in business here. Thank you. Sorry. So the first thing a student's got to do, they do have to complete their Pellissippi application. This is some very just general basic instructions that students can use to follow when they're doing their first step of completing the application. Again, we're recording this presentation, and you guys can go back and watch it as needed. The next step is to apply for the TSAC dual enrollment grant. So this is one of the more, the most important parts of the evening here, and that is, how is dual enrollment paid for? And the dual enrollment grant pays for the first 5 courses for an eligible junior or senior. A student does have to have completed their first 2 years of high school to be eligible to begin taking advantage of the dual enrollment grant. But the first 5 classes are paid for, and the next 5 are roughly half off. Now, this slide doesn't really say the exact correct information for the sake of simplicity. It's listed as up to $554.40 per class. That's the cost of a 3 credit hour class for this year at Pellissippi. It could go up a little bit, but it's just showing that regardless of the credit hour, which it does say at the bottom, these award amounts are based on a 3 credit hour course. The amount will differ depending on the number of credit hours. But if a student takes a course like calculus, so long if they're eligible to take a class like calculus, that's a 4 credit hour course. Well, the dual enrollment grant will pay for that, for all 4 credit hours of that course. Maybe a student takes a course like fitness walking, which is very, very popular course for students, and it's only 1 credit hour. It's paid for. So the first 5 are completely paid for. And then after the first 5 classes, students have up through courses 6 through 10 at an extremely hefty discount of more than half off. It's $100 per credit hour discount, and anything left a student or family would owe. But there is funding available for 10 classes, the first 5 being paid for, the next 5 roughly being half off. And a student, well, we'll talk about the TSAC student portal here in just a minute, how a student would apply. So the grant, and some of this I've already said, the grant is available to juniors and seniors. They must meet Pellissippi State admissions criteria for any course or courses they want to take. Once a student starts taking dual enrollment courses, they must maintain a 2.0 college GPA for all of their coursework. So if a student took a class like English and they earned a D, which we have very, very few students who do that, but from time to time it does happen. They lose their eligibility. Their college GPA is going to be a 1.0. And once a student loses their eligibility for the dual enrollment grant, they cannot regain it. But while they're in high school, like if a student retakes the course and does better, they pay out of pocket. Does that change their eligibility for the grant? Unfortunately, it doesn't. But this is, only while a student is in high school. This does not apply to any future scholarships or grants in terms of eligibility. If the student, doesn't do well in dual enrollment, that GPA isn't, they're not going to start with that GPA after high school graduation. So that's very important, but they would lose their eligibility. But so long as a student earns a C or better in all of their courses as a dual enrollment student, they will remain eligible. Students and families do have to complete the dual enrollment grant application each academic year. Here are some instructions for completing the dual enrollment grant. Currently, the TSTAC portal is under maintenance or it's not operable currently, so it can't take us there to really show how to log in and what that looks like. But these are some helpful instructions, and I'll at least go to the page and show what it looks like before we're done. But yeah, student visits the TSTAC student portal, creates a login, and they follow these instructions. As they're completing the grant, they do need to select Pellissippi as the college or university of choice. And that's the last question on the grant application. Oftentimes students, of course, I understand, they may select UT. Well, they want to go to UT after they graduate from high school. Totally understand that. But for the purposes of dual enrollment, students need to make sure they select Pellissippi State as the college or university. Students do have to complete an immunization waiver as part of the admissions process for dual enrollment. And I will take a moment now to show what that looks like. So on the dual enrollment webpage, this checklist is here towards the bottom. And we've talked about the application a little bit, but the immunization waiver is here. Now we see a P number, student P number. What is that? Well, that is a Pellissippi State student ID number. Every student who finishes an application to Pellissippi State is generated a student ID number, and that is known as their P number. And students will use their P number for an array of things as a Pellissippi student, including filling out this immunization waiver. So the immunization waiver is quick and easy. Once the student has their P number, which of course I will speak towards that before we're done, but they're going to enter their last name and their first name here. Students don't have, it's not a requirement. The students have had these immunizations. What the requirement is that we have to have the form. It is quick and easy. We don't need anything from a doctor or anything official, but a parent does have to complete this section. The parent would complete their first name, their last name, and then their last four, their social and their year of birth. So again, this is all these things that I've been discussing here on the checklist. This is all on the dual enrollment webpage. So let's see, back to the presentation. So after a student has applied to Pellissippi, completed the dual enrollment grant, and whenever they are able to complete the immunization waiver, we do have to have a copy of each student's high school transcript and their ACT scores if we need them. So if a student has an unweighted 3.6 GPA, there are many, many courses that they can take. And whether a student's taking the ACT or not may not be relevant, maybe not be relevant at all. So in that case, we have to have that student's transcript. And if a student falls into the category of needing the, gosh, I don't know why that keeps doing that. One more, excuse me. If a student needs their ACT scores sent to us, Students can do that through their ACT.org account. If a student's already applied to Pellissippi State, one thing that's super helpful is when a student goes to take the ACT, if they could put on their, when they sign up, that they want their scores sent to Pellissippi. Again, they first do need to have an application at Pellissippi on file for that to work really well, but that's an option too, to get any ACT scores to us. But yes, just ask your high school counselor or whoever, a homeschool administrator, whoever your contact may be, because I know lots of different students and families out there, whatever that contact is at your high school, to just send your transcript and ACT scores to Pellissippi. So once a student has done those steps, applied to Pellissippi, applied for a dual enrollment grant, completed immunization waiver, had their high school transcript sent to us, they are able to register. And these are some registration instructions. And I'm not going to go through all of them. Again, it's just simply a resource for you guys as you get through the steps to get back to this page. And if you haven't already applied to Pellissippi and you're just brand new and don't want to bore you with that part, but these are some basic registration instructions that can help a student through those steps. After a student applies to Pellissippi State, they will receive an email within 3 days, hopefully, maybe shorter, but hopefully no longer, with instructions on essentially setting up their My Pellissippi accounts and retrieving their username, their email address, and their P number, as I spoke about earlier. And that page, and there'll also be instructions in the email about all those things I just talked about: the immunization waiver, the high school transcript, and so on and so forth. Let's see. So the My Pellissippi page is going to look like this. Our college's landing page, where we have an assortment of things that students are going to be using and accessing as Pellissippi students here. But after a student applies, they can select trouble logging in, and they can come here to retrieve their P number and their email address to then be able to log in to My Pellissippi. And through My Pellissippi, that's our registration system. That's how students are going to be looking at classes, registering for classes, checking to see if they have any holes in their accounts. And it's critical to, all colleges have a similar registration system portal. There's an institution down the street, University of Tennessee, Knoxville. They have one that's called My UTK. It's exactly the same idea. And it's navigating these systems. This is just 100% totally part of college and a massive learning experience, as that's kind of the whole point of dual enrollment. So let's see. So before classes begin, students need to check their email accounts, and I'll go back to that. I'll highlight Brightspace again. Textbooks, I can also show a little more information about that. Parking at Pellissippi is really one of the easiest things about working here, and that is that students don't need a parking tag. They don't need to register their vehicles or anything like that. The people that do that are the staff and faculty. So staff and faculty have hang tags, and they have designated parking areas, and those are parking areas marked with yellow signs of black lettering that say staff parking. Students park in open parking lots. Those signs are white with black lettering, and the same system as at all of our campuses. So parking is really not an issue. It's free. Students don't need anything for that, and they just have to park in an open parking lot. Student IDs are strongly recommended for all students, including dual enrollment, and students can access they can get a student ID at any library location at any of our campuses, as well as in the top floor of the ERC building, in the top floor of the Goins building at the Hardin Valley campus. Students do really need to have first applied to Pellissippi. They need to be enrolled in courses before a student can get a student ID. But student IDs are extremely beneficial for all things related to kind of campus life. If you want to check out books in the library, you got to have a student ID. If you want to use the student recreation center, which dual enrollment students can take full advantage of, you got to have a student ID. And there's many, many other instances where student ID is required to use the testing center. So yeah, we strongly urge students to get a student ID. The first one is free. I don't remember how much replacements are, but it's become a much easier process than it once was at Pellissippi. First day of class for the fall is Wednesday, August the 21st. And students would have to have everything completed for fall registration. I'm thinking about the application deadline, that a date I don't have in my head, but I would fully suspect it's about maybe August the 12th. So a student would have, that's kind of like that is the deadline. I could be a little off on that, but it's somewhere around there where a student would have to have everything completed in order to enroll for the fall. And I speak with lots of students and families. I suggest that they try to get everything done before Memorial Day for the fall semester. And we're coming up on that now, but there's still plenty of time. Just the sooner the better. Waiting until August to enroll in college is not a fun process for anyone involved. However, if we are able to bend over to do whatever we need to help students, even if we are a little late. Registration for the spring semester begins usually around the 20th of October, and courses begin around the third week of January. So I tell students for registration for the spring to have everything done hopefully before Thanksgiving. I haven't mentioned summer at all yet. Summer is an option. The deadline is very quickly approaching. The deadline for summer is hard and fast each year at May 15th for students to have all the steps completed for dual enrollment, including the dual enrollment grant deadline. Everything kind of has to be solidified by May 15th. And that's the case each year. So if a student is going through the process, or maybe they already could have someone on the call now that's maybe waited the entire time to hear what to do. If a student has a hold on their account, or they need a prerequisite override, or something maybe isn't correctly entered, email a dual enrollment account, the dual enrollment email account that I've listed here, and I will have this again in a minute on another slide. But yeah, sometimes students, they do run into snags. Students can check their holds in their My Pellissippi account, but sometimes we need a little extra help. So we are here for you. On the Contact Us page here, I have the dual enrollment email account, and I don't know why this computer is not working. Jeez. So the best way to get a hold of us is the dual enrollment email account is really super, super helpful for general questions. Getting if there's clarification on how to get an item to us or something like that. That's probably the best way. If a student or family has heard something in this session where they need, we need to learn a little more, or we need to dig in a little more, or maybe you have a specific situation with a certain degree program or ambitions that you have, the dual enrollment appointment page is a lifesaver. So students and families can always visit the dual enrollment appointment page and set up an appointment to talk, to talk with me in a little more detail. It could be an in-person appointment, could be a phone call, could be a virtual appointment. But it's their students and families always have questions, and that's the best part of this job is working with you great folks. So as you have questions beyond what we've covered tonight, we're still not quite done, but we are getting here towards the end. The dual enrollment appointment page, absolutely indispensable. And let's see. I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe this is a good jumping off point to take some questions if there's been any. And there's a couple other things I know I can come up with that maybe I didn't talk about if we need to go a little further.
Hey, Spencer, we do have a question. So when you're talking about the prerequisites for the class, this question is specifically for math, the 1530 statistics. This student is a homeschool student. So that GPA that you were talking about earlier that kind of trumps the ACT score, that 3.6 GPA, does that apply to homeschool students as well?
Yes, it does, Sarah, and whoever asked that question. Thank you so much. Because yes, that is a great question to ask, and I always love to clarify that yes, even where there are students in a homeschool independent study program, as long as they have it at the 3.6, they can go straight into a course like stats.
Perfect. Thank you. That is the only question we have at the moment.
Well, I will take a minute to maybe talk about, I didn't really talk about students who maybe, if you like, there are plenty of opportunities still at Pellissippi as a dual enrollment student for students that maybe aren't, if a student doesn't have those the 3.6, the 3.0 GPA with the ACT scores. So we do have options for students that really, I mean, if a student has a 2.0 GPA and has taken the ACT and has nothing lower than a 13, we do have numerous options. And the most popular is that students taking advantage of fulfilling a PE credit. And the most popular one of those courses is fitness walking. We also have increased popularity big time in pickleball. Students, but they're also not limited to phys ed for sure. Students take web design. Web 1600 is extremely popular for students who, just wanting to get started in college but don't have those academic benchmarks. Criminal justice students can take without those benchmarks. So students aren't just limited to the gen ed courses that I highlighted and we've spent most of the evening on. And there are bukus of courses that we offer at Pellissippi in so many areas. And I got to this page from the college catalog, A to Z index, college catalog, and it is under course descriptions, which is extremely helpful for folks to kind of get a general idea of some of the things that we offer. Video production technology, intro to desktop and video audio. Student with a lower, if the student doesn't have that 3.0 GPA, it's possible that they could absolutely take advantage of something like this. And again, there are many, many others. Do we have any other questions, Sarah?
Yes, we do. We got a couple that popped in. So I'll grab this first one. This student wants to know, how do you sign up for online classes? So once you're in your My Pellissippi portal, those classes are going to show up, And if the synchronous classes are going to say www as the location, and it'll have a specific time and day that it's going to meet. So it'll say like Monday, Wednesday, 9 to 10:30 or whatever. The asynchronous classes will say they'll say www for the location, but they'll say TBA, like to be announced. And that means it's an asynchronous class. So, and it'll also say in the description, log into this course the first, I think it says 2 days of class. If it says that and it says TBA for the location, then that's an asynchronous, and www for the location, and the that's an asynchronous class. So be looking for those, and then obviously, oh, Spencer's got it pulled up. Excellent. Thank you, Spencer.
So yeah, I just did a search for all the English courses, but that's fine. All the English 1010s, but the ones that Sarah was talking about they're always going to be kind of towards the bottom. And you're looking for anything that says www, like just exactly like she said. And again, I picked English, but it's pretty much the same for all of our disciplines. And students and families can access our course schedule without having a My Pellissippi account, as I've used to log in here. But it's much easier if a student just does go ahead and apply, and they can get in their account and look courses up that way. But that was a wonderful question, whoever asked that.
Thank you, Spencer. And then the next question is how much are books?
So while I'm in My Pellissippi, so books do range in cost dramatically, or can be, but and we don't know, or we won't know the prices for books usually until about a month to 6 weeks before the semester begins. And again, I'm logged in here to My Pellissippi account, and I've actually I have I've registered for some courses as an example for you guys to see. And this is so helpful for students and families, this blue box. So once the students registered for courses, they see this box at the bottom. And again, so that, it's May the 2nd today. I doubt it's going to say much. It says course materials have not yet been determined. English does have theirs on there, and it says, but I would never ever buy a textbook until you've heard exactly from the instructor, exactly, which books you're going to need. Like on May 2nd for a course in the fall, I would not do that. I would wait closer till August the 2nd or when the course begins. But this is just, to answer the question directly, it is a great tool for students. And I mean, this is some kind of English course I'm enrolled in. And it's a great example of kind of showing you your options. Not every book is going to have these same options, but it's a great example of showing you the cost. It's a great, as you see, in my opinion, I don't think it's too unreasonable. And it could be higher than this, depending on which class you're taking. But students can look that information up in My Pellissippi at that little blue box at the bottom of their detailed schedule.
Perfect. Thank you, Spencer. I'm gonna have one that I'm gonna answer. When do I need to fill out the FAFSA? So the good news is you do not have to fill out the FAFSA for dual enrollment. Yay! But your senior year in high school, the FAFSA is when you'll want to start filling that out for the following year, for your freshman year in college. So normally the FAFSA opens in October of your senior year, so that's when you want to start filling that out. That deadline, they usually announce that maybe March 15th, April 15th, somewhere around there. All right, Spencer, we have another question for you. How do we know if our courses will transfer? This student's particularly interested in UT.
All right, great question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Google UTK course equivalency course. I mean, it shows up in my search results because I live and breathe by it. But if you do a Google search for UTK course equivalency tables, if you do a Google search for Purdue course equivalency tables. If you do a Google search for Pepperdine course equivalency tables, that I'm not certain all of those places, but that is the trick. And we can do that. I mean, anybody, you can do that without having, of course, any account or anything like that. And I am going over here to, I've selected Pellissippi as the college, and I'm going to type in English 1010, and it is going to say or tell us exactly which course. I don't know why there's so many listed, but they're all say the same. So it's going to exactly tell us that it counts as, it fulfills that English requirement at UT. Now, depending on the course, if a course doesn't transfer, it will either tell you or it will not show up. But I challenge all students and families who are wanting to really dig in on the transferability of courses to check. Now, the truth is, the vast majority of courses that students take with us do transfer to almost everywhere. Not Vanderbilt, maybe not Yale, but most public colleges are going to take our credits. But the only way to definitively know that is to check the course equivalency tables or with that college.
Perfect. Thank you, Spencer. Okay, we have one more, we have a couple more, but this one is specifically asking about that 3.6 GPA. I think there's just still like a little confusion. So I don't think this student has taken the ACT. They're not going to take it till June. So they're just clarifying. And yes, you can go ahead and apply and register regardless of that ACT score if that GPA is a 3.6 or higher. I just want to clarify that.
Sure. And I see a few that I can definitely go through really quickly. Fall break the same as Anderson County? That is a great question. Our fall break, I can tell you this, is I am quite confident that it is the same as Knox County. But let me double check and see. I can tell you what it is, and that is October the 7th through the 13th. So while I'm not sure what Anderson County's is, that is when ours is for this year. What time do classes usually start? Great question. I can easily show us that without just looking at the schedule. And it's not the prettiest document, but it will definitely suffice. And that is a couple years ago. Well, yeah, I guess it's been a couple years now. The college went to a 4-day Pellissippi academic calendar, meaning that our courses, except for lab sciences, they only meet either Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm not aware of too many other colleges that have a similar arrangement, but it is. I think it has pros and cons, but one of the definitive pros of it is when a student or family asks me, what time do classes begin? I can show them so easily. So we have courses on Mondays and Wednesdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8:30 to 9:50. We have courses, as you can see, 10 to 11:20, 12 to 1:20. Now, these are for our in-person courses, and this is the same case at each of our campuses. And let's see. Someone asked about how do we know if a high school class is going to be taught at their campus. So we don't teach courses at each. So Pellissippi State serves all the public high schools in Knox County and all the public high schools in the 3 districts in Blount County. So we do not offer courses at each of those high schools. We do offer courses at some, but if you are, your first question would be to ask your counselor And we do offer some courses at private schools. I've forgotten about that, and or homeschool co-ops. We've offered courses all many places over the years. So the first thing would be to ask your counselor or someone at your high school about, if we're offering courses at your high school, and if we are, you'd be very interested in pursuing those. Someone said yes, we definitely take the SAT. And the requirements, for the gen ed course cutoffs, it is I think it's a 550. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what ACT state means, but I think that's what Tennessee technically is. But again, I don't know exactly what that means. But yes, Pella City State and every college I'm aware of definitely takes the SAT. Yeah, I've never heard of a requirement of like you have to take the ACT. Maybe there's a requirement for some kind of obviously test similar, but students are, if they want to take the SAT, they absolutely can. Let's see. So yeah, someone asked about books. And yeah, so books are not included as part of the dual enrollment grant. Students do have to pay for books out of pocket. That's usually the only expense that students and families have. Um, and maybe time for one more about the question about, can we get a degree from Pellissippi before we graduate from high school? Yes, we absolutely can. Students that are interested in pursuing are wanting to get a degree before they graduate from high school. The biggest thing is that they got to start soon. They can't, it's not something that someone halfway through their junior year says, oh, well, I want to try to get my degree before high school graduation. So it is students that are starting definitely as early as the summer after their sophomore year. The dual enrollment grant is available to students the summer, so long as student has completed their first 2 years of high school and they are a junior. A student could take advantage of the dual enrollment grant as early as the summer after their sophomore year. And then if a student is getting a degree before high school, they're literally going to be taking 12 to 15 hours every summer. I mean, every semester in order to graduate. We have had, I think in the 12 or so years I've done this, I'd say we're close to probably 100 students that I have seen do this. So it is a possibility. And then, well, I guess I just see this other question is really quick to answer. So there, yeah, I said that dual enrollment students can take advantage of everything except study abroad. The other thing dual enrollment students cannot do is actually play as a team member of one of our organized sports. Now, we have intramural sports in an array of areas. We have one of the greatest frisbee golf teams in the United States of America. Technically, a dual enrollment student could play on that team, but in terms of our sanctioned sports that we have with, well, I'm not going to name them all, but softball, baseball, of course, they're coming on. Cross country and all of those things. No, a student does have to have graduated from high school first. So sports has been great. It's been a really exciting thing to have at Pellissippi State. But as a dual, I've seen dual enrollment students who have, did dual enrollment and they ended up being on one of our teams. I don't know. That could be you. Anything else we want to add, Sarah?
Oh, very, very informative. Thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for joining us tonight.
Yes, and one thing to put a plug in for, I should have said this sooner. I'm sorry. We will be having a webinar much more geared towards actual orientation for students who have already registered and are ready to go. We're going to have another webinar on August. I think we're scheduled for August the 1st. It'll be 6 o'clock again. The link to sign up will be on the dual enrollment webpage, and hope to see some of you guys there. And if I can help, or if we can help in any way, please don't hesitate